Hi, I'm Katie with Katie's Homeschool Cottage, and this video today is going to talk about how to develop your child's writing skills naturally. And it isn't as difficult as you might think. I know it can sound kind of scary, but you can see how you can build those writing skills on a day-to-day basis without even calling it writing. And it doesn't have to be a set curriculum. It can get them started just naturally writing and not even thinking about it. So the first thing that I recommend when your children are little is to really little, start by having them draw a picture. And it can be a picture in a square at the top of a page or even a whole page. But you need some areas down underneath the picture or next to the picture where have them tell you what's going on in the story, and then you write it down. It can be 1 to maybe 3 sentences, and then read it back to them or have them tell it to you again, and you point to the words so that they can associate their words with something in writing. And that's for the real littles. And they get a kick out of being an author, writing a story, because children are natural storytellers. Another thing that you can have them start doing is drawing their own picture and then writing a sentence, even just one sentence about what they drew. So that's a very easy tip for really early writers and storytellers. And then to incorporate it into your daily living, you always go to the grocery store, or you sit at home and write a list of what you need to buy at the store. Have your young ones help you, even if it's just writing a simple word and you help them write the word, like milk or eggs. And you can go ahead and just even have a form like this for shopping list or a blank piece of paper. But it's always helpful just to have some lines and have it segmented like this so it doesn't look like a blank piece of paper. It's less intimidating for them. You can find these kinds of forms that I'm showing you in a link below this video that will take you to my website, where you'll find different resources available to you to use, some for free and then some to purchase. These are free for you to download, so I encourage you to go to the link below and download these and start using them. So then after they get kind of used to just even writing a word or two to help you with the shopping list, and they'll get a big kick out of it, and then for incorporating maybe those reading skills as well, hand them the shopping list during the grocery trip and let them check off when you've put that item in the basket. So these are simple ways to get them writing and using their language skills on a daily basis. Another thing that is easy to do is at Christmas time and birthdays, just have them include a thank you card, a little note on a thank you card that maybe even you might be adding to, and say, we're going to write a thank you card to Grandma or Grandpa for their birthday present or their Christmas gift. And you go ahead and write dear, and then show them that you're writing Grandpa and Grandma and put a comma, and then have them dictate to you, if they're not ready to write, what they want to say, and then you write it. Or if they're ready to write just simple words, you can even help them write just thank you for your gift or thank you for the. And just something like that gets them in the habit of, with the idea of, you can just write and practice writing just without even thinking about it. Another thing you might want to do is even just a postcard. It can be a postcard that you find from home and have them just help practice writing a note or two and saying hi to someone on a postcard. Something else that you can have them do as they get older is to, and this is very important, retell a story. Now, even if it's something as simple as sheep in a Jeep, have them start retelling the story back to you. And they can tell you the story, what they remember from it, in order, because that is the most natural way for them to organize their thoughts and to retell a story that has some kind of sequence to it. We did sheep in a Jeep and all those different types of rhyming stories to help my children start reading and also be able to retell a story back to me. As they get used to this, they are going to become more natural thinkers and organizers of their thoughts. They also incorporate vocabulary from what they've heard in the story. They can start associating the words that they are telling you on paper as you write it down for them. And then as they get older, what you can do to incorporate this into, let's say, your homeschooling is we started out with, as I said, retelling stories, but we also use something like this. This is the story of the world, and there are 4 different volumes, and it's all in chronological order of world history. And they're short chapters, which makes it very conducive to what I used this for with my own kids to help them practice their writing skills. And we also, at the same time, we did our history and even incorporated stories around this particular time period. So we tied in our history with our literature and our reading time and our writing time all in at once. So for instance, this chapter is called The Earliest People, and it talks about the first nomads. And it's great because you can see as you read aloud, it's a short chapter. This is only about 2.5 pages long. And what I had my kids do, and I encourage you to do this as well, is have them listen, tell them you're going to have them retell what they've just read with you out loud. And that will help them, alert them to that they have to listen very carefully to what they're hearing from you. And then at first it may start out slowly where they only remember a couple of different things or one thing, but you can also start maybe prompting them with a question. Well, what happened after that? Do you remember anything else? What did they say about this? And just get them used to talking out loud about something that they listen to in a sequence. Again, the narration type sequence in chronological order is the most natural way to get them rethinking about what they heard, think about what they want to write. That's the easiest. If they write something in a sequence, that is the easiest way for them to tell a story. They are natural storytellers from the time they start talking. Well, this happened, then that happened, then this happened. Some of you might have natural storytellers where the story never ends and it keeps on going. The same thing with retelling something that they've listened to, such as the story of the world. So my kids, once they got used to just retelling this chapter or very short chapter back to me, then I would have them sit down and I would have them use something like this, and it's called a notebooking page, and it has a place at the top for a title, or it might be filled in already, or it might have a picture already, but this had a place for a title, and then it had places for pictures and then lines. So you can see that they were able to draw something, but I didn't let them draw something until they wrote something. So this one was about Sumer. And this was when my child was about 9, and we were really starting to write with my 9-year-old because he had language issues with speech as well as reading and writing. So this was not something that came naturally to him. But I'm going to show you some progress, and I think you'll be surprised. So at the beginning of the year, when we, again, ancient times, with the first volume of A Story of a World, we started with Sumer, was part of the beginning of the chapters, and he was able to write just a couple sentences. But he didn't just sit down and write them. I had him tell me, well, what do you remember we read about? So he would come up with a sentence. I would say, okay, let's write that sentence down. And we would write it. And sometimes to get started, it could be a very painful process for the mom because we have to sit there and kind of coach them and patiently wait for them to write each word down. And that's okay, because as long as we approach it as this is a process and it's going to get easier and we can just take small steps, you're going to notice a big difference as you practice this. We did this about two times a week at first, and then went up to about 3 times a week. And it only takes about 20 minutes possibly, and it was great practice. So you might only get a couple sentences down, 1 or 2 sentences, maybe 3. And then when they're done writing that sentence after you help them, so they write the one sentence and then you say, well, what else do you remember? Well, so and so and so. And then you go, okay, let's write that down. What did you just tell me? And then you write it down word by word from that one sentence they just said. And then see if they remember anything else. Have them repeat the sentence they just told you, word by word, and write it down. So you're going to gradually grow from just 1 or 2 sentences or 2 or 3 sentences. They can draw a picture afterward as a reward, to something like this, where they were actually able to remember several things about the inventions of ancient China, and they were able to remember 1 invention, 2 invention, 3 inventions, and then they were able to write 2 sentences about that one, 2 sentences about that one, and 2 sentences about this one. So you can see it's not focusing on, okay, paragraphs, cohesiveness. It's just getting some facts down on paper. That is the easiest way to get them started. Creative writing comes later, where they have to like think about, oh, well, what am I going to write about? What is this character going to do? You know, what's the next thing the character does? That's a more complex level of writing. If all they have to do is think about what they just learned and then formulate it into a sentence, you're going to get them on the path of organizing their thoughts, putting it into a sentence, then another sentence, then another sentence. So you can see we're categorizing here. These sentences are about this invention. These sentences are about that invention, and you can see they're separate. So they start getting the idea of separate paragraphs about individual items. It's not all clumped into one paragraph. Here's another one about the different dynasties, and they were able to draw a picture after they wrote. You can see the sentences are becoming longer and more complex. This is as the year goes along. And then here's one about a medieval feast. And then this is the same student that started out from the Sumers to the end of the year with Marco Polo. And he wrote a whole entire paragraph about Marco Polo by the end of the year. So we go from this with just a couple sentences to this. And this is less coaching because he's used to the idea of remembering what it was that we read about and then putting it in order, chronological order, about what he remembers about Marco Polo and writing it in sentences. This was sentence by sentence. This was him sitting down and writing it all on his own. So you can see the big difference it makes from beginning until end. Now, something else that you can try as well, and I did mix this in when my children were very young and they were just beginning to write, and we were practicing just retelling a story. And this is Sheep in a Jeep, and we were using the ideas of first, next, last, and we were using these transition words and just learning how to sequence things. So this is Sheep in a Jeep, and you can tell that the writing is larger. You can tell that there's different corrections, but what those corrections are is a couple of inventive spellings, and those became his spelling words for the week. So we had the difference between, and because he had some language issues, he had some problems differentiating between there, and there, through. He had, for instance, fur was F-E-R instead of F-U-R, some, S-O-M-E instead of S-U-M, swamp, S-W-A-M-P instead of S-W-O-M-P. So you can see that we just took a couple of and then trail, T-R-A-L-E instead of T-R-A-I-L. So you can see we took a few of these and those became his focus words for his spelling. But he was able to tell me the story of Sheep in a Jeep, and this took a lot of coaching. First, what happened? Next, what happened? And these are very simple sentences, but this was at the beginning. So you can see the development that happens from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. Something else, if you have a student that is having a difficult time doing this type of writing, would be to get them into the habit or idea of retelling a story. And you can start out with maybe cartoon boxes and have them just sequence the story in pictures first, so that they get the idea of thinking about the story and retelling a story, and just give them some cartoon boxes. As I said, if you look in the description underneath the video, make sure you download different forms that I've included and the link to find out some more ideas and information about how to get your children writing naturally.